Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I don't know about you guys, but I'm noticing two things. Firstly, I'm noticing a huge shift in enthusiasm and excitement, considering this RFK Jr. endorsement of Donald Trump, and frankly, I'd say I'd call it less of an endorsement and more of a partnership, more of a coalition. There's obvious buzz and excitement in the air, that's point number one, and the second thing is, of course, the exact polar opposite. How the Democrats are feeling. Total, utter despair, panic, and chaos. Of course, you'll see a lot of people just shrugging it off, pretending like it doesn't matter, oh, it's only Bobby Kennedy. It's not like we want his endorsement anyways. Kamala Harris rejected Bobby Kennedy, and we prefer that stance. They're pretending as if it's not a big deal, at least on the surface, but of course, let's just bring back the typical meme every single time we do in these instances. The Democrats are putting on a mask. Everything's fine, they say, as they're panicking, crying, and shrieking behind that mask.
Why are you crying?
I think we're going to need to start doing some wellness checks on some of these leftoid Blue Anon Twitter folk pretty soon here, because the leftoids are not okay. That's what we got to talk about here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Okay, so like I said, we got a lot of Democrats pretending as if the RFK Jr. endorsement, or really the suspension of his campaign, isn't a big deal. It's not going to be impactful. There's a lot of people pushing that talking point, but they could say that all they want. They could blah, blah, blah all they want on Twitter. But if I were them, I don't know, I'd be feeling a different way, and I have a feeling that when they're watching this kind of thing, well, their internal emotions aren't exactly matching what they're writing on Twitter.
Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name, and I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me.
I mean, come on, that's not going to be impactful. Bobby Kennedy suspends his campaign specifically in all the most crucial battleground states. In all the states where Democrats were hoping that Bobby Kennedy was going to rip votes away from Donald Trump, in the most competitive states that are all polling within the margin of error, Robert F. Kennedy is removing his name from the ballot. And even beyond that, he's going to be probably campaigning with Donald Trump throughout the entire process. And let's just think about the numbers. Let's just think about the possible impact. Let's just take a look at five-way polling data in the state of Michigan just for fun. Over the last roughly 2 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is polling anywhere between 4 to 10%. I don't know about you guys, but that seems quite significant to me. Personally, I don't think Kamala Harris has the cushion to be able to handle this kind of a coalition. Democrats can act confident if they want, but the reality is it's not looking good for Kamala Harris. It already wasn't looking good, and now it's looking even worse. And some people might be confused by that. What do you mean it wasn't looking good for Kamala Harris? She's up in a lot of these swing states, she's up nationally in some of these polls, but again, that doesn't tell the whole story. Don't forget that Democrats need a significant cushion in polling to win in these battleground states. And don't just take it from me, take it from left-wing political strategists.
James, how much faith are you putting in polls that show Harris is ahead in key states and nationwide?
So, let me say this. August is a great Democratic month. We hell on wheels come August, okay? You remember what George Steinbrenner said about Dave Winfield? He called him Mr. May. The idea is to be good in November. And I tell Democrats some caution here. First of all, most quants say we have to win by 3 in the popular vote to win the Electoral College. So when you see a poll that says we 2 up, well, that's actually you're 1 down if the poll is correct.
Yeah, you'd lose.
The other thing is Trump traditionally, when he's on the ballot, chronically under polls.
They know, people. They know. They pretend that they don't know, but they know. I mean, let's just look at the Michigan numbers that we were just looking at. You see these results in a five-way race and you think, wow, this is horrible for Donald Trump. Down 2.4 in the average, what's he gonna do? But some important context, if we take a look at Michigan this day in history back in 2020 and back in 2016, on August 24th, 2020, Joe Biden was ahead by 7. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was up by 8. Now Kamala Harris is up by a measly 2.4, and supposedly it's the end of the world? And supposedly it's the end for Trump? Absolutely not. Trump is expected to overperform these polling results by a significant margin. And actually, interestingly enough, if we take it to a two-way race, Kamala Harris's lead shrinks even lower. And that's just assuming a two-way race where I guess RFK Jr. isn't present on the ballot, but it doesn't represent a scenario where RFK Jr. pulls himself off the ballot and then starts campaigning for Donald Trump. I mean, CNN's already entering panic mode, attempting to sound the alarm.
Today, RFK Jr. had suspended his campaign endorsing Trump. Kennedy telling reporters that Trump had asked him to, quote, enlist him in his administration. Now, the latest swing state polls show Kennedy with 5 or 6% of the vote. And so when you think about it overall, you may say, well, that's not a big deal. Actually, if that is the case in swing states, it is huge. It is everything. It is more than the margin between Harris and Trump in some of those same states.
Again, they can act confident all they want, but the underlying reality does not justify a confident demeanor, period. And speaking of a confident demeanor, do these kinds of reactions to RFK Jr. spell confidence to you?
That boy ain't right. Okay? There's something weird. You're weird. Okay? That's nothing wrong with being weird. But that boy ain't right. He just did something wrong. He hit his head or something. I don't know what.
Yeah, I was watching that, and Donald Trump last week stood and said in front of a bunch of groceries and said, I haven't seen any Cheerios in a long time. I had Cheerios for breakfast. This was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And trying to get any logic out of that is good luck with that. Because it's, one, you can't understand what he says. Two, if you can't understand what he says. And I'm reminded of a line in Mel Brooks' Blazing Saddles when somebody gets up and gives an indecipherable speech. He says, who can argue with that? That's authentic frontier gibberish, and that's exactly what that is.
Yeah, those kinds of below-the-belt attacks only happen when the Democrats have their backs against a wall. Instead of actually addressing the context of RFK's speech, they choose to attack his disability or just outright disregard him as a crazy person. It's obvious that they're uncomfortable and defensive. Look, all I'm going to say is underestimate this at your own peril. And you know what? In the same line of thinking, keep overestimating Kamala Harris. Go ahead, go along, keep doing that. Not so sure it's going to work. The math is very simple. Kamala Harris doesn't have a great lead. Trump's going to overperform probably by 2 to even 5 points in most of the swing states. And now a lot of those people on the fence who are supporting RFK Jr., well, they're likely to move directly into the Trump camp. Not to mention Donald Trump's on an absolute freaking tear across the nation, doing campaign event after campaign event, interview after interview, and another very special campaign event / interview is slated to drop pretty soon here between Dr. Phil, President Trump, and RFK Jr.
RFK Jr. has offered his support to you and your campaign. How do you feel about that?
I'm very honored by it. He's a very smart guy, a different kind of a guy, but very smart, loves our country, has some, I think, very good views on a lot of different things. And I've known him for a long time. We've been somewhat friendly, actually. And I think he's going to be a great asset. And will I have him in the administration? It's possible. We haven't really discussed that, but it's possible.
Trump is firing on all cylinders. He's polling way ahead of his averages. And we've got a historic political coalition that's standing up for the fundamental values that America was founded on. I don't know. All I'm saying is if I was a betting man, that's it. Video's over.